Hello and welcome to the introduction to the accounting principles. So this short video will introduce you to the basic concepts and fundamental principles we're going to be learning in Accounting 201, financial accounting, and Chapter 1 specifically. So for many of you, you probably have some preconceived notions about what accounting is. You've heard the bean counting stereotypes, of course, and they're just accountants are nothing but boring gatekeepers, all sorts of things, bill collectors, people that you don't want to deal with generally, and for the most part you probably think it's going to be boring, and some of you are probably nervous about overly complicated mathematics. But you don't need to be worried about that. As you saw in the syllabus, all I care about you having is a basic calculator that can add, subtract, multiply, and divide, and you do not need to know any mathematics beyond that. Little bit of rudimentary algebra, and that's about it. There's really one equation, but that's a little bit of a deception on my part. It's one equation that guides everything we do, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But the basics of what accounting is really it's the language of money, and you'll see it referred to as the language of business. It's all about the dollar bills. Hopefully you guys recognize these folks on here. What accounting really is in its most basic form is just a system for providing financial information about a business entity generally. So four things that it really provides is, first of all, it allows us to identify specific business activities and specifically things that affect the financial well-being of a business. Provides a system for measuring those transactions and business activities, then recording it in a useful and organized manner, and finally what we want to do with that information is communicate it. And we'll do so in the form of several financial statements. At the end of this course, you're going to know how to prepare and how to understand a business's financial statements. And all this information, of course, needs to be relevant, reliable, and comparable for both internal and external users. This is how you or many other investors, if you wanted to take a look at any corporation that is traded publicly on any stock exchange, you could actually go take a look at their financial statements. Publicly traded companies are required to file financial statements both on a quarterly basis and on an annual basis. And after this course, you'll be able to understand those basic financial statements and really see, just in a short amount of time, how a company is doing in their financial well-being, just from understanding these basic rules. We're going to start with a quick example, and the easiest example I could think of a business that is a lemonade stand, something I think we all probably started when we were younger, some of us anyways. But I want to start us kind of with a goal, and the goal in starting our business is that we want to buy concert tickets for every Saturday, which are going to cost us $50 to buy these concert tickets every week. The plan is to sell lemonade at the park for $1 a cup. And in our first example, I want us to start off, we're going to start selling fancy lemonade. We've got these great ideals of a business. We want to sell pink lemonade. It's going to be flavored with acai. We're going to use nothing but the best organic ingredients. French imported water. We're going to use fancy crystal cups. So where do we shop? Of course, nothing but the best stores to make this stuff. So in our first example here, we create our business. It's delicious, and we make sales of $200 in revenue. How did we do? Good, bad, or don't know?
Don't know.
It's right. The correct answer here is don't know. And by the way, I've got a student with me just who's volunteering to follow along and learn accounting with me. So you may hear her voice every once in a while. But yeah, we don't know. All we've got is a very small piece of the puzzle. We have no idea what our expenses are and what we've profited. So if, for example, we had expenses of $201 and only revenues of $200, well, we didn't do all that well. But if our revenues were low, then we wouldn't have to worry about it. So let's take a look if we had a little bit more information on this. So yeah, let's assume that our expenses were $199 in this example. Obviously, our answer would change, and that would be a bad result. because we only would have profited $1, and our goal is, of course, to profit $50 every week. So what should we do with that information? And this is what accounting gives us, is at least a framework to start thinking about or making some business decisions to keep our business viable and healthy. In all likelihood, what we want to do here is find a way to reduce our expenses. So in example 2, let's say we decide to scrap the acai, scrap the organic stuff, no fancy crystal glasses since we're going to be selling lemonade at the park. We decide to go with traditional stuff. And of course we have, in week 2, we have sales of $40. How do we do? Of course the answer here is still don't know, because we only got half of the equation here. We'd still need to know what our expenses were. So if we add a little more information, let's assume that our expenses were $10. How do we do here? Well, we did a little better, right? We're now profiting $30 would be our net income, and we'll learn what that term means in just a bit. But we didn't exactly meet our goal, right? So we've now got it to a point where we're profitable, and what might we want to do here? Hire another employee? Probably not. Reduce our expenses? We may not be able to do that, but we want to probably get some more revenues, and we could either do that with increasing advertising or possibly increasing sales price. One of those two options I think would be the right thing here. We don't know. That all depends on the market. But assuming we go with increasing our advertising, how, of course, do we increase advertising for a lemonade stand? One way is to buy a much bigger sign that says lemonade and put that right on our stand. So let's take a look at example 3. We get our big sign. We now have revenues of $120, expenses of $40. How do we do this time? Good. Yep, we did good, absolutely, because our goal was just to profit $50, and this time we've profited $80 so we could buy those concert tickets. So just using those basic accounting principles that we learned there, we can see this is almost a simplified version of one of the financial statements that we are going to learn, which is known as the income statement. And in its most basic forms, it is revenues minus expenses. Gives you either a net income if you have a positive number or a net loss if you have a negative number. In our example, of course, we had net income of $80. So just a basic example there of how we were able to use the accounting information that we had to make prudent business decisions, increase profitability, and optimize a business. And honestly, you cannot run a successful business without it. You guys have heard stories after stories about the thousands of businesses that close on an everyday basis, and generally it's because they do not have a good handle on their accounting. Not necessarily that they don't have a good product or a good service, but they just don't understand profit and accounting.